All right, we are back for another episode of What Happens If. In this episode, I'm going to show you what happens if you cold proof your dough before you bulk ferment. I taught a sourdough bread class on Sunday. I didn't want to let my dough ferment overnight because I knew it would overproof. So instead, I decided to plop it into the refrigerator, and then the next morning I pulled it out, put it on the counter to do its bulk fermentation. This is what it looked like about 4 hours later. It was much stickier and not quite as light and fluffy as normal, but it still looked pretty decent. I had to use my bowl scraper, as you can see here, to get it out of the bowl. I put it onto a work surface and I went ahead and did my pre-shaping. You'll see, yes, the dough looks very sticky here. It was actually a little bit challenging for me to do the pre-shaping, but I did a little bit more of the pre-shaping than I normally do, just to kind of work with the dough and see if I could create a little more tension and build some more strength in the dough. Once I got that finished, I let it do its bench rest for about 20 minutes, and then I did my final shaping, the caddy clasp method. You can see also in my final shaping, dough is still super sticky. It was actually really challenging to laminate the dough. It was a little hard to work with, but I plopped it right into the Banneton. I covered it up and I put it back into the refrigerator to cold proof again because I didn't have time to bake it. So at that point, it had cold proofed twice. I then the next morning took it out of the refrigerator, and this is Tuesday morning at this point. So remember that the dough had been prepped on Sunday night. Tuesday morning, I took it out of the refrigerator. I did my scoring. You see that I always spray it with a little bit of water. I don't like to use flour on the surface of my dough. I prefer water instead because it adds a little bit of steam into the Dutch oven. I also think it gives it that really nice crispy crust and those nice blisters. Here I am putting it into the Dutch oven. The Dutch oven has been preheating at 485 for about 30 minutes. I then lowered the temperature to 450 and removed the lid and baked it an additional 20 minutes. And this is how it turned out. I was actually quite shocked. It looks really good. I went ahead and I baked a second loaf at the exact same time using my normal technique of bulk fermenting and then cold proofing, and they look pretty similar. My normal technique did produce a little bit more of a rise and a better belly, but let's see what happens when I cut it open. I am a little unprepared for this, but look how beautiful the crumb is. I am in shock. All of these rules that I have been told for the last 2 years don't always necessarily matter, and it just proves again that you don't always have to follow everything that you see on the internet. And guess what? The loaf tasted wonderful. See you next time.